I suggest we get started.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this side event for the Global Disability Summit hosted by Commonwealth Disabled People Forum and supported by the FCDO, Global Affairs Canada, Disability Rights Fund, Commonwealth Health Disabled People's Forum, and the Ghana Federation of Disabled People Organizations. My name is Sarah Kamau. I am the chair of the Commonwealth Disabled People Forum at the moment, and I want to wish you all a fruitful deliberation as we start this event. I come from Kenya, and I am representing an organization called the United Disabled People Organization of Persons with Disabilities in Kenya, in short UDPK, which is an umbrella body that has over 200 organizations of persons with disabilities under it, and it fights and advocates for the rights of persons with disabilities and lobbies government through legislation to be able to include issues of persons with disabilities in their day-to-day life in all sectors of life. So I want to welcome all of you into this event. We have 11 speakers who I shall introduce as the time comes for them to make their speeches. And I want to say that they come from different OPDs as well as governments, and that shall follow accordingly when they introduce themselves as they make their speeches. For now, I want to also talk about the Commonwealth Disabled People's Forum. This forum started in 2018. During the Global Disability Summit, there was a revival of the CDPF, which had gone to sleep for a while. But from that time on, we have been able, from 2019, when we made the revival at New York, we restarted with 27 countries at that convention, and currently we have representatives from 43 representative organizations of persons with disabilities under the umbrella, and we have also 47 associate members to CDPF who are also part of the movement now. So the organization is now vibrant, and from the time we began, we have been active. And why we thought we should have this side event is because we think the development of democratic, long-term funded DPOs working on equal terms with funders and NGOs is essential to be able to develop and implement disability rights around the world. One of the key themes in this Global Summit is strengthening capacity of DPOs and OPDs in the Global South. And this side event is going to talk much about how this long-term funding to develop and strengthen DPOs under the Commonwealth and all over the world in the globe is very key. So we shall be glad to have each one of you put their points clearly, and we'll give each speaker at least 5 minutes to make their main points, because our time is also limited, except for one speaker who will take like 7 minutes. So I would like to say that at the end of it, we shall have to respond to some questions, if there'll be any, and I'm requesting all participants to put, they can initially introduce themselves in the chat, but after 10 minutes, let's put questions in the chat so that the speakers can be able to respond to them at the end of the forum. And while we stick to our time, then we can see how much time will be left at the end of the speaker speaking. So I want to welcome all of you and even all the participants to actively participate both in the chat, and kindly put your videos off until you're called upon to speak, maybe then you can put them on. So I want to start by welcoming Mawunyo Yakor-Dagbah, who is the President, Assistant Director, Audit Service, Ghana National President, Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations. She's in the governing board member of the National Council of Persons with Disabilities. And she's an executive member in the Commonwealth Disabled People Forum, representing African Albinism Network. So I want to welcome on board Mawunyo. Take the chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson Sarah, and our moderator for this very important side event. So overall, in Ghana, I would say that the national level GFD influences development and implementation of key national legislation and policies. For instance, the 1992 Constitution is evident that Article 29, we had our inputs in there, Labor Act, Children's Act, all of that. It is therefore not surprising that in anticipation for the need for government to make informed commitments in this Global Disability Summit, GFD, the Ghana Federation of Organizations, had to consult its members across the country to be able to bring proposed commitments to government. The specific steps that we took, as I said earlier, first of all, we did a desk review of our domestic and international reports that led to, that was between 2019 and 2021 to draw out major challenges that are confronting persons in Ghana. Then we went ahead to engage our membership across the regions to elicit the existing developmental needs of persons with disabilities. And then in particular, in relation to the thematic areas of this year's Global Disability Summit. And then GFD put together all of this and sent a proposed commitment to government. Now what? I'm actually mentioning this because we had achieved this as a result of the highly trained and professional staff that run the Secretariat of GFD. However, these staff are remunerated by donor partners, and they stand the risk of either losing the remuneration or having it reduced based on projects. And what even worsens the situation is that these days donor partners are calling for counterpart funding, and that brings our resource component of project budget very down. And now I will propose that our government should consider subventions for the running of DPOs and OPDs. It's something that is happening in some countries, for instance, in Gambia. I hope they are still doing it, and we could learn from them. And I want to say where the Ministry of Finance set aside a percentage of the annual budget to support operations of DPOs and OPDs. Also, establish a disability fund where we can draw corporate social, some percentage of corporate social responsibilities, particularly from extractive and telecommunication industries, to support operations or functioning of DPOs. And also, if government can allow DPOs to make requests to government agencies for secondment, and also enhance the human resource capacity of our DPOs through government-initiated scholarship. I want to conclude here by calling on Commonwealth Health of State government, particularly those in developing countries, to take on board as a matter of agency financially resourcing DPOs, OPDs for the sustenance of our effective work, which ultimately benefits the government. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Mawunyo, for even keeping time and giving those insights on what governments should do to make sure that long-term funding to DPOs is given and is established according to the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. I want to call our next speaker, who is Richard Rieser. Richard Rieser is the General Secretary for Commonwealth Disabled People's Forum, and he is the CEO for World of Inclusion, Coordinator UK Disability History Month. He's a longtime activist teacher, he's a writer, a filmmaker. He represented UK Disabled People's Council at an ad hoc committee on the Uncrpd and on European Disability Forum. So I want to welcome Richard to take us through the reason why we need this fund for Opds.
Thank you, Chair Sarah. And the last point that Mawunyo made there, I can give a commitment that we will take that to Kigali, Rwanda, when the CHOGM takes place in June. We won't all be able to go there, but certainly some of our senior officers will try and get down there, and we'll be putting this to get it in the declaration that the Prime Ministers make there in June. So well done to Ghana on getting that position. So we became aware when this theme was one of the themes, which it wasn't in 2018, and I think that lost us 4 years, but it is now. And this theme, we thought we better do an urgent survey to find out the position. The communications with the summit have been a bit complex, and so we didn't know exactly what the main themes were going to be in terms of communication. As soon as we knew, we put this survey out, and as you can see there, we got about a response. Had about, at that time, 85 members. We've got nearly 90, I think 90
Richard,
now. Yes?
Richard, we can't see your screen share.
Oh. Thank you. Does that mean, can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. Did that mean that you couldn't see Mawunyo's either?
Yeah, this is the first thing we've seen.
Okay, well, it's probably the one we need. So you can see it now. So as you can see, we had, at the time of the survey, we had 85 members, nearer 90 now. We want to see how representative it was. Obviously, our biggest membership is in Africa. We have 18 full member country associations, umbrellas like Ghana that you just talked about, and a further 22 associates. South Asia, we have 6 full country organizations and 8 associates, and then the Caribbean, 9 island full members and associate, Pacific 9 and 1, and Australia, Canada, Britain, New Zealand, including Malta, we have 4 member and 7 associates. And the response wasn't too bad in terms of that. I think it's fairly proportional. So what were the main things that we found out from that? We found out that lots was going on and that quite a lot of places were actually doing quite well. So that, for instance, the Pacific Islands, Australia, and some of the Caribbean, there was quite a big commitment there from government to actually fund core funding. But in the areas of the main population of the Commonwealth, in Africa, with the exception perhaps of Gambia and a little bit in Kenya, but with that exception, there was not much money coming at all, none at all, as we'll hear from further speakers from government. And we also found that in South Asia, where of course 60% of the Commonwealth population live, there was no money being given to Dpos, and that includes Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, and Malaysia, as well as Maldives and so on. So this was a big problem. So it wasn't surprising that when asked to rank what their main needs were for capacity building, that as a first priority, 32 of the 43 respondents put long-term core funding. When we put together their choices out of 9, the first 4, then it comes in at 86% wanted long-term core funding. And the next highest to that, which was interesting, was understanding of implementing disability rights and understanding of disability rights. And while there has been notably good training done for individuals by the Bridge Project and so on, what seems to be missing at the moment is mass information and training And we tried to do that in the Commonwealth last year with a online training course, which we are sending out further this spring, so that people who have an internet connectivity can do it. But there really needs to be something that coordinates all of this stuff. Indeed, improving communication with government was not very high, although 44% said that, as well as improving access. The next one was improving accountability and democracy. More than half wanted that. And then being treated as full partners and co-production with NGOs was an important one. And this has come up before with us, where our members have actually stated that really that the NGOs they're working with need to accept our leadership. They need to empower and build our capacity rather than the quick fix of going to the NGO to do it. This is a short-term measure, but it doesn't lead to long-term change. And we are very keen that that actually takes place. And then we need detailed training on project management and capacity, budgets and governance. So those were the main things that were coming out. And I remind people that Article 4.3 and 33 make it very clear that governments are committed to developing the legislation and policy to implement the convention and other decision-making processes, and that they shall closely consult with actively involved persons with disability, including children with disabilities, through their representative organizations. Now, this seems to be lacking in many countries and is not acceptable. And we can't really represent people if we don't have the long-term funding. So what are our asks? And we have put some of these in to the summit, which the chair will say at the end, but we need long-term core funding that can develop the organization and capability to run democratic organizations. We need to coordinate capacity building across the world. At the moment, lots of different organizations are doing capacity building. This is replicating resources. It is really a waste of resources. And there needs to be a comprehensive plan across each region for doing this. And we need to be in the lead, we as disabled people, of working with NGOs. Governments too often, particularly my own, reach for NGOs because they have the capacity to do this, but they fail to actively involve disabled people at every stage. And this is the problem, that after the funding has gone, what is left behind? So although there's short-termism there, meets certain tick boxes, it doesn't actually meet what we require. We need online computer-based learning resources. We need much more face-to-face training on how to successfully influence government. We need access modes and methods to be available. And we need to have a regular two-way communication at the highest level with government. That means at the presidential, prime ministerial level. Everything, as people from IDA have been saying in the pre-meeting yesterday, the civil society, nothing without us is what they've been saying. And that's right. Every single issue affects disabled people as 15% of the world population. We need to also strengthen cross-impairment umbrella organizations. This all came about, the change of paradigm in the convention. I think this is really important, from different people who had to struggle against the material existence of their oppression, being in homes and being not having their rights or stuck at home, not recognized. And people who fought against that in several places around the world at the same time. We've seen the film of Judy Heumann standing in 1973. We also have,
1 minute.
Yeah,
1 minute, Richard.
A minute? Okay. We also have people like Joshua Malenga in Zambia and in Zimbabwe, which led to the strong South African movement, and SAFOD, a very strong part of the disability movement, because they brought this change to seeing it wasn't our impairment that was a problem, it was the oppression from society, the barriers. So they needed to build cross-impairment organizations, and we need to do that again. Strong cross-impairment organizations. We need to understand that it is out of that the change in our conditions came about, rather than taking the crumbs from the plate, as many blind and deaf and deaf organizations have done for over 100 years. We need to unite our strength in each region and take that forward to put real pressure on government to implement the convention. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard, for that elaborate discussion, which I know will enrich this this ask as we try to ensure that governments are supporting OPDs in all ways. I want to call the next